Hey everyone, welcome to the Avoid the Fish YouTube channel. Today I'll be talking about the Tier 7 Premium Cruiser, the USS Wichita. Before I jump into that though, I just wanted to say thank you for all the support on the last video on the HMS Exeter. That video looks like it'll be my first video on this channel to get to 1,000 views, and I'm really excited and just thankful for that. And once again, I ask you, if you enjoy this content, to like the video, subscribe and comment. It really does help out and it motivates me to keep making these videos, which I do enjoy making. But anyways, guys, I'll have timestamps in the description down below, and you can jump around if you want to, but I encourage you to watch the whole video. I'll start with the history of the ship, then I'll compare it to the Baltimore statistically, then we'll talk about the commanders that I used, and then we'll get into the gameplay. Moving into the history, the USS Wichita was a unique heavy cruiser. She was the first of her class. Before I get too into this, I try to do these history little segments in 2 minutes or less, but I encourage you to do your own research because all these ships have very fascinating stories. But the USS Wichita was the only ship of her class. She was the last heavy cruiser built under the London Naval Treaty for the U.S. Navy, and she was originally supposed to be a New Orleans class cruiser, but the U.S. decided that they wanted to change things up a little bit. They weren't completely satisfied with the New Orleans, so they designed her on the hull of the Brooklyn class light cruiser and then modified it for a heavy cruiser, of course, which included having heavier armor plating basically all around the hull. But when World War II broke out, she was initially on convoy duty in the Atlantic, but was later transferred to participate in Operation Torch, where she worked closely with the USS Tuscaloosa. Later on, she would go ahead and assist the USS Massachusetts in engaging the famous Jean Bart, the ship that terrorizes everyone at Tier 7. But after that, she was transferred to the Pacific. A funny story from there is she had a newly installed radar, and she was operating with the battleships Idaho and Mississippi, and she picked up numerous contacts that were unknown on her radar. And so all the ships opened fire, and they expended about 1,000 rounds of ammunition, over 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and they discovered they were firing on a flock of migrating birds, which is unfortunate for those birds. Having a couple of big shells, battleship shells and heavy cruiser shells flying their way is definitely not a good time. After her unfortunate encounter with the migrating birds, she assisted in the Battle of Leyte Gulf and then later on Okinawa. And like many U.S. warships of World War II, she met her fate in the late 1950s and was sold for scrap. Jumping on into the statistical analysis in comparison to the Baltimore, before I really get into it, I do want to say that I do not own the Baltimore, so talking about the feel of how it plays and everything, I've played against it quite a bit, but I've not played it, so make sure that you take my word at that level. I do fear those AP shells, but I do not play the Baltimore, and I hope to eventually, but I have not yet. And these are the base stats because I do not have any unlocks on the Baltimore, of course, and I'd always want to compare them at the base stat level, but make sure that you know that the Baltimore can be upgraded so that it will have better stats fully upgraded. So hit point wise, you're looking at just under 40,000, which is low for a heavy cruiser, but I'm not going to complain about it. What I will complain about is the torpedo damage reduction. If you get hit by torps, you will die, basically. You don't get any reduction. If a Udachi hits you twice, you're dead. You know, it's not very fun, but you're also a cruiser, so you shouldn't be getting hit by very many torps whatsoever. You shouldn't have a problem with torpedoes. Moving on to the artillery, the Wichita does shoot 3 seconds faster than the Baltimore, which is quite nice, and the range is 15.5 kilometers at a base level versus the Baltimore's 14.1, but ultimately whenever you upgrade the Baltimore, they are very close once again. Another difference is that the AP shell damage of the Wichita maxes out at 4,000, where the Baltimore maxes out at 4,600, which is a significant difference, but once again, you do have that 3-second shooting difference, which is very nice to have on that Wichita, and I would say is a big bonus for it. Maneuverability wise, let's get into the secondaries before we do that, because they are different. You have 12 secondary guns with the Baltimore set up on 6 turrets, 2 per turret, of course. They shoot every 6 seconds, maximum HE shell damage of 1,800, where the secondary armament is quite different with the Wichita. You have 427mm Mark 30 Mod 0 secondary armament that shoot every 3 seconds with a maximum HE shell damage of 1,800, and then you have, similar to the Baltimore, you have the 4 127mm that will shoot every 6 seconds. That's where you find that similarity, with another maximum HE shell damage of 1,800. So you get 8 total secondary guns with the Wichita versus the 12 of the Baltimore. But of those 8, 4 of them will shoot twice as fast. So I would say they're pretty similar, but I wouldn't really buy this ship based off of the secondary armament. If you're brawling with this, you're playing it wrong. U.S. cruisers are not made to brawl. But it is interesting to see that there is a difference in that secondary armament. And then we'll get on to maneuverability. The Wichita is built on the Brooklyn hull, if you didn't listen to the history part, which is a light cruiser, so it is much more maneuverable than the Baltimore. I say much. It's not a whole lot different, but it is different, so you got to keep that in mind. I really like how this ship maneuvers. I didn't have any issues with dodging torpedoes or even kiting or anything like that. I was able to dodge shots very efficiently. With the Baltimore, once you upgrade the hull, it might be very similar, but I have not played the Baltimore once again, so I don't know exactly how that feels. But I imagine it's a U.S. cruiser. It should be decent, but not the greatest with maneuverability. And then moving on to concealment. Pretty standard stuff here. They are very similar to each other. I don't know how the other hull plays out with concealment and everything like that with the Baltimore, but looking at the base stats, these ships should play very similarly. I don't know if they do, though, because you do have an increased fire rate, but you're also built on that lighter hull of the Wichita, the lighter cruiser hull. So it definitely, I think, is made more to kite and everything than the Baltimore is. But once again, these are ships that you don't want to brawl with. You want to dodge shots and stay back and just pick apart the enemy almost like you're sniping. So, or at least that's how I would play these two ships. As far as commanders go, I believe you have 3 options with this ship. You have George Dewey, of course, the base U.S. commander. He is a solid option if you have neither Thomas Kincaid, the defensive commander, or Norman Scott, the aggressive commander. My general rule of thumb for cruisers, at least, is if it's a light cruiser with smaller guns, I would use the defensive commander. Focus more on dodging, the ability to avoid taking damage, while a heavy rate of fire will help you give out damage. Whereas with a heavy cruiser, I like to use an aggressive commander. So I focus on my guns and I just make them stronger, as I'll be shooting less than a light cruiser. I want those to pay off more. And I can also take a couple more hits than a light cruiser. That's what I normally do. But with this ship, I'm really lost on what to do as commander. I think both are extremely solid options. I ended up using Norman Scott, as I was following my rule of thumb, is using an aggressive commander for a heavy cruiser. But I think that Thomas Kincaid is a fantastic option for this ship, and I would heavily encourage using him as well. I will show you my Norman Scott build, as it is the one that I use the most and the one that my gameplay is with. And with that build, you have your base trait of Norman Scott with directed impact, and I'm using Philip Vian as an inspiration here to increase the incoming fire dispersion. I don't know if that's the best call here, but it's something that I've been trying out and having success with, I think, but maybe that is just all in my head. For perk 1, I use Beyond Range, perk 2, Igniter, perk 3, Punch Through, perk 4, Fixated, and then my legendary perk I use Fully Packed to get the extra repair party, the extra sonar, and then either the extra radar or the extra fighter, whichever you go with. I would heavily encourage you to use the radar there, though. But with this build, what I'm doing with the heavy cruiser is I'm trying to focus on its strengths and make them stronger. That's why I upgrade the range, the fire starting chance, and also the AP shells. The AP shells are really the highlight of these US cruisers, and that's what I want to upgrade whenever I'm working on making my strength stronger. But if you were to use Kincaid, that would be an awesome option for you as well. We'll go ahead and move on to my build of the ship and also the kit that it comes with. So looking at this ship, as far as modifications go, I think it's unique because there isn't a specific build that's going to be the strongest, at least in my opinion. Of course, you want to go with Aiming Systems Mod 1 for your first modification, and then for your second, I go with Propulsion Mod 2 on almost everything. You guys know how much I love that, but you might have something that might work better for you, so don't just take my advice and pick Propulsion Mod 2, even though I think it's very strong. I use Concealment Mod 3, or Concealment Mod 1 in my third mod slot, but you could use Steering Gears Mod 3 if you wanted. I just find that Concealment's more useful for me, but as far as kiting and dodging shots, you might be more successful with your Steering Gears Mod 3. And then for Mod 4, I went with the Gunfire Control System Mod 2, which extends my range, but you could go with the Main Battery Mod 3. The unfortunate side effect of that is you already have very slow turret traverse at 30 seconds for 180 degrees with this ship. If you boost that by 15%, it's just going to make it much more difficult, I think, to use this ship. So I would suggest using Gunfire Control Systems Mod 2, but that's up to you. You could elect to go with your faster reload speed, but you will find that dodging shots really limits your ability to shoot back at the enemy whenever your guns are never aligned with where you want to aim. And then moving on, I did take these screenshots here whenever I was using Norman Scott, so I do have fully packed. So just note that if you do not use fully packed, you will only get 2 sonars, 2 radars, 4 fighters, and then 2 repair parties. But in these screenshots it shows them all as having the +1 because I am using fully loaded. With the sonar, it's not great, but I can't complain. You know, sonar, it is useful. It's definitely not the German sonar that I've been used to from playing the Prince Eugen, though. And then looking at the radar, 9-kilometer range, 30-second duration. That's strong. It's not the strongest in its tier by far. I think the duration is tied for the strongest, but the range, I believe, is the lowest in the tier. But 9-kilometer range isn't bad. It's nothing to complain about, especially whenever you have your concealment mod. Your spotted detectability by C is almost that range. So if you get spotted, you can almost guaranteed to spot a ship or a destroyer whenever you pop your radar. And then fighter option wise, it's the default, but you do have so 6 minutes of a fighter, and then the reloads is a little bit slower actually at 3 minutes 11 seconds. Or actually, sorry, it's a little bit faster. I was reading that wrong. It's 2 minutes and 51 seconds. So not really something that you need to talk about or think about because you're most likely going to be using radar, but that is the fighter stats. And then the repair party is very standard for the tier, but it is a 28-second repair party. It heals 227 HP per second with a reload time of just under a minute, and you get 3 of those. I never want to complain about a repair party because having that ability to take hit points back is very, very important. So loading into the map Estuary, definitely not my favorite map. I do like Domination, probably my favorite game type, but Estuary is not my favorite map. A lot of people seem to like it. I think that it really heavily favors battleship players, and it limits a little bit what you can do with cruisers, and that's probably why I don't like it, or maybe I just haven't learned how to play it yet. But as you can see, I'm playing against 4 Jean Bars, 2 Udachis, and then a Minsk, and then they have a Vanguard as well. That is not a team you want to go up against. The Minsk and the Vanguard aren't very big threats, at least I feel in the game. But the 4 Jean Bards and the 2 Udachis, that's just a nightmare. It's kind of where the meta of the game is going right now. Surprised I didn't see a Kuchuzov, and they also have a Baltimore, I believe, on the team. But anyways, this gameplay is not the most entertaining. I'm not going to be brawling or anything like that with this ship. I'm going to be treating it almost like an Atlanta for a lot of this game, which isn't probably the best way to play, but whenever you're going up against 4 Jean Bars, I think that's a little bit of an excuse to be able to just say like, hey, I gotta play a little bit more passive here, use islands as cover. So I'll fast forward through some of this gameplay, and I'll also update you a little bit on the channel while talking about the ship and the strategy that I found playing behind it. But right now, I just want to take some shots at the Vanguard, and then there's a Jean Bart to his right. I do see the D's being captured at this point, so I know a destroyer's in there. And it's being captured very quickly, so I'm kind of guessing there's 2 destroyers in there. But I don't know that for certain. It's tough to just tell looking at the cap whether it's being captured quicker than normal or not. But I am lighting up this Vanguard right now, trying to set some fires. I haven't yet. This ship, this gameplay actually isn't a very good indication of how many fires the ship can start. I found I was very successful in lighting fires in my other gameplays, but in this gameplay I don't light too many fires, and I think that it is a better fire starter than that. But the AP shells are the strength of these ships, and whenever you're playing against 4 Jean Bards, you won't necessarily see that, but I think that you guys have a good idea of the strength of American AP. And in this gameplay I just wanted to show you that it's kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of a fun gameplay I found, even though it may not be the most entertaining. I do end up losing this gameplay as well, but as far as the channel right now, I think that there's going to be some action in just a second here, but as far as my channel right now, I didn't upload in the past week, and that was just because I had some personal things going on in life, and I was also working and trying to prepare for this next semester of school. I am a college student, so I do apologize I didn't upload anything last week. I do plan on continuing the road to the Grosser first, and I have completed several stages since my last one, and I apologize for not updating you guys on all of that, but I do plan on continuing that series and trying to update you on what's going on at the different stages. But that's what's going on with the channel right now. I plan on trying to upload twice a week. I do start another fire on this Jean Bar right now. But and I've not been spotted so far in this game, which is quite useful. Of course, I know something's back here because I have been shooting a shot every 10 seconds, a full salvo every 10 seconds at these ships, trying to light them on fire. But I do move forward slightly here, and I'm just checking to see how this Jean Bart's doing, as he's been taking all the damage so far. He's the only one spotted on this side, I believe. I don't think our Udachi's been spotted yet. But that Vanguard is playing extremely aggressive and pushes up, and this Udachi ultimately, and there's a Akatsuki, I believe, over here as well. It might be a Kagero, but it's two Japanese destroyers over here, but they do launch torps and punish that Vanguard heavily for playing so aggressive, which is nice to have that support. And then this Udachi just pushes up out of nowhere on me. I didn't know he was over there. I thought it was just the Minsk for a little while, but that cap was captured very quickly. So he's basically just made the worst play in the game. He might be a new destroyer captain, or maybe just somehow he didn't notice me firing from behind the island. But he just pushed around. I popped my radar, and he does launch this third set of torpedoes at me, and I was pretty upset about this because I couldn't slow down enough. I think that if I maybe continued with my speed and continued turning there, I could have dodged that, but he chunks about half of my health, and then the Jean Bart punches me in the mouth right there. And that really messed up my game. I was doing very good at 70,000 damage at that point, and then all of a sudden I lost 2/3 of my HP in a matter of 5 seconds. So I was very frustrated about that, but now I'm hoping that I can help take away this Minsk from the game. If we do that, they'll only have one destroyer left, and I'm pretty positive he's on the other side of the map at this point because he hasn't been spotted, and I haven't seen too many torpedoes coming this way on this side of the map. But I have lost my Jean Bart. I don't know how he was taken out unless he got hit by those torpedoes that went past me from that Udachi. But I'm in a little bit of a tricky situation here on what to do. I can go over to D, but then it's a 3-on-1 to take out one ship. I do have two destroyers, though, that aren't very good at destroying other destroyers. They are two Japanese destroyers, which are very good versus battleships and even decent versus cruisers. As far as their strength is their torpedoes, but it's definitely not their guns, and they're playing against a destroyer that has one of the better sets of guns in the game as far as destroyers go in the Minsk. So I decide ultimately that I'll take some shots at these Jean Barts that are playing aggressively on the other side of the map, but I do need to help my other destroyers over here take out this Minsk. That's kind of the key, is you want to keep your destroyers alive in the game. They are very, very valuable. So I do start edging my way over here. These Jean Barts are playing super aggressive, and there's not much that you can do about an aggressive Jean Bart whenever you don't have torpedoes, and also whenever you're 16 kilometers away. You can just hope to start some fires and that they don't shoot back at you, and that you can burn them down a little bit as they push your enemy team and provide that support. But at this point, I have the Akatsuki and the Udachi, and they both are low on health. The Udachi has a decent amount left, but the Akatsuki pushes out there to launch torpedoes at this Minsk, which isn't a very good idea in my opinion. I don't play Japanese destroyers very often, and I know there's not much he can do at that point, but I would drop a smoke or something at that point and just try to get out of there. I do not want to fight that Minsk in an Akatsuki. But this Udachi, he continues to engage and starts shooting at this Minsk, and it's just not a good idea. And I think if I didn't already, I look at him, I'm like, come on man, get back. And he gets destroyed, and that is very frustrating. We lost two destroyers when there was no need to do that. I was there in the area. I could have easily pushed forward and helped there as far as taking him out if they were to just pull back. Obviously I couldn't get up there as quickly as they did. I maybe could have been a little bit quicker, but ultimately I don't think I would have changed that outcome with how they played that. But now I'm the only one over here. I need to fight this Minsk. I'm not sure how I want to approach him because he has very fast torpedoes, and I have basically 0 torpedo damage reduction. But I do know that he needs to be taken out, and I can see that D is contested, so he's not pushing away from the island. He's just staying behind that island because he knows I'm coming. He wants to ambush me, and what I decided to do here is to go up to the island and then turn away and run away, and then hopefully I can throw off how he launches his torpedoes, and I don't push past and just absolutely run into his torpedoes at this point. So I'm turning away from the island and running away from it now. I think that's a pretty good strategy whenever you have a destroyer plane like that that's just playing behind an island waiting for you to come around and launch torpedoes at you. But luckily my secondaries kick into action here, and they start lighting him up. They take out his engines and force him to use that repair. My radar's back almost online. I don't really want to use it here, but I go ahead and do it just because I need to take out this destroyer before it gets away. So I pop my radar, and I miss every shot. That is pretty embarrassing. But those Russian destroyers are quite quick, and if they start moving, you do need to lead them quite a bit. And I did not do that effectively in that shot. But I recover from that. I take out his torpedo tubes. Not that it means anything, but I basically have 10 seconds. I need to hit this next shot here to take him out of the game, to make that radar worth it. And boom, take him out of the game. At this point, it's a 2v3. I've done 94,000 damage, which is not bad whatsoever, but I really need to help my battleship over here, which I believe is a Vanguard, as he's trying to run away. I know he's being chased by a destroyer at this point, and also that cruiser that's on the other side of the map that is a Baltimore. And then the Jean Bart's just posted up in the mid, just trying to snipe at him as he's trying to get away and has almost a broadside exposed to him. So I really would hate to be in the situation that he is, so I'm just trying to get over there to help him. I know that there is that destroyer on the sea cap right now because it's being captured, of course. Pretty straightforward stuff. And then that Baltimore shows up on the other side of the screen outside of my range. But ultimately, all I can do right now is steam towards this Vanguard to give him support and also try to light fires on this Jean Bart. I know that as I come around this corner here that I can be spotted, and I am spotted ultimately, but luckily that Jean Bart's backing up. If he were to push forward, he could have ended this game much more quickly. He has a much better health pool, and he can also basically one-shot me whenever I'm exposed like this with my broadside open. But there comes that Baltimore. He's almost at full health as well. There's not a ton I can do right now. I am up to 110k damage for this game, but ultimately there's some games that just aren't winnable. And I definitely don't think that I had a perfect game or anything close to a perfect game on this map. I could have gotten to help our destroyers a little bit quicker, but ultimately there's some games that you can't carry. And this game proves to be one of those. But this is a good idea, and also a reason why I showed this video is because I do fight a Baltimore here. And it'll give you kind of an idea of how they play against each other. I ultimately die to this Baltimore, I believe. I don't believe that the Jean Bart killed me. I think that the Baltimore finished me off, but I decided to throw some AP his way, test out this AP that I hadn't used all game so far. I've just been using the HE, and the AP is the strength of this ship, and I do get some nice pins, even though he's kind of angled towards me there. So that shows you, if you're shooting any cruiser, you will get more pins and more damage than normal with your AP, but that's pretty straightforward from an American cruiser. It's what you expect. I switched back over to the HE though, just because at this point I need to be focusing on both the Jean Bart and the Baltimore, and I'd like to start some fires on both of them because it's probably the best way for me to assist this Vanguard that has made it over to me now. But we do have 3 caps that are in enemy hands, and we only have 1 to ourselves, so they're getting basically 2 points for caps each time. And then I see some torpedoes coming in from this Udachi that they still have, and I'm just waiting for my radar at this point to cool down to come back so that I can shoot at this Udachi. But I do get my Citadel there with my AP on that Baltimore. It shows that this ship, even whenever cruisers are angled, you can pretty easily Citadel them. But at this point, I know that I need to take out this Udachi, so I take one more shot here, I believe, at the Baltimore, and then I switch to HE, I think. Not positive. Maybe I take one more shot after this, yeah. But look at that, 9,000 HP, and then I take a big hit from the Baltimore. That's going to happen whenever you have 2 American heavy cruisers shooting each other. They're just going to chunk each other's health away every salvo. But I popped my radar. There's that Udachi. I should have waited till I had reloaded all the way, but I didn't. But he gets scared, pops his smoke, does absolutely nothing. It's radar. But he gets scared. It's kind of a panic button, the smoke for a lot of destroyer captains. So they pop that smoke. He does the smart thing. He turns away, provides me with the smallest target possible to shoot at him. But I have Norman Scott, and I have accuracy, and I just start chunking away at this guy's health. And he starts shooting at me. I don't know why he did that, but he did do that, and now the Vanguard hasn't spotted for me, but I take 5,000 with that shot, and I mess up here. I got a little bit too aggressive, and I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on around me, and I hit this island. And so if you watch my gear shift, I don't know what you'd call it in the ship, sorry, my power levels on the right hand side, I back up full power. I'm at 2,000 HP. I know I'm gonna die here, but I take this shot and then I slam it into full forward, hoping that I can dodge some extra shots, and I can't. But that is a good tactic. You don't want to just back up and try to get out of there if you're low health. See if you can get the extra shots off that I wasn't able to get in that case. But I end up with this game with 150,000 damage, 152,000 damage actually, if you want to get technical about it. But I really have enjoyed playing this cruiser. I definitely wouldn't say it's the best cruiser in the game right now, but it is a very strong cruiser to have, just like the Baltimore is. Stuff like the Kutuzov that can absolutely wither battleships, and whenever you're coming in 5 battleships every game, maybe AP isn't the strongest shell to have, which is what the strongest point of these American cruisers is. I would say the HE is, and so stuff like the Kutuzov will be strong right now. But if you want to play a ship that can absolutely pack a punch and you don't have to wait for fire damage to destroy stuff, this is an awesome ship to have. I really enjoyed playing with it. This game that I played is indicative of what it's like whenever you're playing against a lot of battleships, which is the current meta, but it's also not showing the exact strengths of the ship either, as far as, you're going to Citadel a lot with that AP and absolutely dilute other cruisers at most times, and then you do have the strong radar so that you can fight against destroyers. But anyways guys, I hope you liked the video. It was kind of a long one, a long commentary, maybe not the most entertaining one to watch, but if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback, that would be awesome. And just thanks for the support guys, it really means a lot, and have smooth sailing out there. See ya.